Kilted Warrior here. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Today we take a look at how Skyrim holds up after 11 years. Yes, 11 years. I played this at high school and god, that makes me feel old. I will be dissecting this legendary title, looking at its combat, gameplay, presentation, and whether or not Bethesda should really consider hiring some actual full-time bloody writers. This is a vanilla review for those who are wondering, so I will not be delving into the rabbit hole that is modding, because we all know the seedy reputation of this mod scene. There's only one thing players mod, and it's disgusting. Recreating Morrowind, obviously. What were you thinking? Combat and gameplay systems. Skyrim, even back in 2011, didn't exactly have the most engaging combat. Hell, Elder Scrolls has always been lacking in this regard. Now, 11 years later, vanilla Skyrim combat that has seen no changes with the subsequent versions is stale, to say the least. It's actually shocking how much better carefully modded Skyrim is in this regard. Heck, I used the Sekiro mod some time ago, Special Edition. Yeah, a mod that makes Skyrim combat Sekiro. I haven't played Sekiro, but that mod was great, so no pressure Sekiro when I eventually play it. Anyway, the lack of punishment for stamina usage beyond not being able to sprint or bash or even block isn't that much of a problem, as your character can easily tank blows in this game, as it's more of a stat equipment check most of the time as opposed to actual skill, unless you're picking master locks at level 1 like a natural Houdini. That said, survival mode does aid in some of the issues regarding the combat consequence element, which I will note in the next part here. As for the core gameplay loop, the tried and true Bethesda explore, fight, loot, level, process loot, and hand in quest still works well as an idea and is highly addictive. Again, the thing this game had on Fallout 4 is it managed to indulge in its gameplay loop without causing dissonance with the main story and your character. Hence the you are what you play and the go anywhere ideas are powerful motivators for good gameplay and stretch back through the series for a reason. Survival mode and fishing. So they have been incorporated into the vanilla anniversary edition rather than the silly not so microtransactions they used to be. As to whether it improves Skyrim, survival mode, it does. It comfortably fits seamlessly into vanilla with slight UI changes and all in-game items being built around it, with concerns of hunger, sleep and warmth being included. And it can be enabled and disabled at any time, which I do appreciate. That said, there can still be some weirdness with some of the values in this, evidenced by 1, this apple here, and 2, why these fur gloves are actually worse than these hide gloves that don't even cover your hands. I'm just gonna go with it having a sort of anime armor logic where the less armor you wear, the more warmth you get. I mean, to be fair, my character did wear Golden Saint armor most of the time, so real world logic doesn't really come into this. As for the combat side, I noticed previously it also removes the health regen, which, thank God, every player character being Wolverine gets old fast, and stamina doesn't regen super quick either. However, since every character comes with healing magic in vanilla, yeah, you can still get around the supposed limits on healing without issue, but it's a nice change nonetheless. Overall, if you prefer a modded game with, say, Last Seed and Frostfall as I do, survival mode does not have quite the same impact. or the extra systems that they bring. As for a well-incorporated Vanilla Plus style system, Survival Mode is a nice improvement to the game for most players, and I would consider it a better system than, say, the Fallout 4 Survival Mode. As for the fishing, it is clunky but a nice little distraction with quests and milestones you can pursue, and it encourages a new avenue for roleplay and a reason to explore the world, as well as emphasize the different climates and the various forms of water life, which assists in the world building. Again, any systems that can allow players for a greater degree of roleplay in a game like Skyrim is a brilliant addition no matter what, really. And since they are totally optional, even better. This is why every Bethesda game should follow Fallout New Vegas and incorporate a hardcore survival mode as optional from the start. Progression systems. Elder Scrolls has had various progression systems throughout its anthology, with character-based skills and attributes, but also equipment including weapons, armor, spells, powers, but also guilds. Skyrim removed the traditional attribute system other previous games had and streamlined it into 3 attributes. Now as then, I still think it was detrimental to the feel of progression, as is the lack of classes. I will note this later. Otherwise, the perk system finding its way from Fallout is a good thing, but it falls into the classic percentage increase trap. Again, the original Fallout 1, was careful to make each perk noteworthy and even game-changing at times for certain playstyles and for progression. Skyrim nor Fallout 4 have many of these, but there are some, like if every perk was like block charge, sweep, or poison, it would be great. But most are more damage or higher chance of arbitrary thing happening. This whole idea is reinforced by the fact that the small tree that the Vampire Lord gets is a more interesting tree with lots of powers added and various spells for that form, while the werewolf are lesser because they have the aforementioned percentage-based style of the base game. As for equipment, this may be where the game still performs well, as the armor and weapons have plenty of styles and the use of smithing can be made effective throughout the game and is essential for role-playing a particular character or just, playing fashion scrolls. They might not be practical for the Nordic environment, but can look pretty cool regardless. Again, this game very much goes on the rule of cool / anime armor logic. As for spells and powers, it's where things can go from interesting to horribly unbalanced. I don't mean OP necessarily. Spells in vanilla temper off far too quickly, so their power is very low in the late game overall, while shouts don't scale at all in vanilla. Enchantments can help with these elements, but shouts like Fire Breath seem cool, but do nothing on higher levels and difficulty, and there's only a few items that actually will increase its power. If you want OP progression on the other hand, Sneak. Get like 1 or 2 perks in Sneak, a muffle spell, or simply just 50+ sneak skill, and yeah, you practically become invisible. There's like a cliff in stealth balance where you go from idiot stumbling about kicking cans to Hitman's silent assassin where you go unseen and the idiot AI has no idea what to do, even though people are clearly dropping around them. So overall, you see, the gradual reduction in the amount of skills is not necessarily bad, but when compiled with the no class restrictions, broken stealth system, and vanilla Skyrim leads to the character becoming a master of all trades quite easily. For example, my playthrough for this was meant to be a Redguard warrior with a little magic, with no perks and rogue skills and only restoration magic. And even with no lock-picking acumen, I could pick expert and master locks from level 1. Naturally, I use lockpicks because there's no bash locks, and you'd be a hell of a detriment if you can't open locks in this game. And what ended up happening is I was leveling up lockpicking regardless because of this, and with a character like this, it just feels silly and, well, out of character. Also, I was able to join the College of Mages with no magic skill except for low restoration. I literally just had to pay a little bit of money to get the spell needed, and even though my destruction skill I had not leveled up once, I was able to cast the spell with no restrictions, and there you go, apparently I'm a mage now. The crux is Skyrim hurts its own replayability, which is pretty good regardless, by allowing the player to master everything and play every guild without restriction or consequence. So progression is varied, but is unbalanced, and requires you to place personal restrictions to prevent the abuse of its systems, as well as there being no downsides to the master of all trades. So my conclusion for progression would be varied but unbalanced, which is a cardinal sin in a sandbox RPG as far as I'm concerned. Story, lore, and world building. The story's fine. I mean, the story of the Dragonborn, though egocentric power fantasy with a Nordic end times twist, and though yes, the writing is meh at best and the main character is treated alongside the player as an idiot by everyone, on the other hand you have some great voice actors playing varied roles. Why did they have to die? May you feast in the halls of Sovngarde. Anyway, as well as the addition of the Dragonborn DLC, which acts like an epilogue, it's a solid enough story and plotline overall, but its pacing is jarring if you power through it quickly. Again, the story is built into a game where side distractions and exploring side content is expected, as is the case with the guilds as well. As for the guilds, I rank them as such, Dark Brotherhood being the best storyline, Thieves being the most guild-like guild, Companions being harmed by the forcing of the player out of character. I won't spoil it for those living under a rock, and the Mages Guild, which bizarrely cuts off when it starts to get good, evidenced by there being cut content as I understand in this case. I won't even mention the massive waste that was the Civil War. Oh, and there's the Dawnguard Volkihar vampires with the Dawnguard DLC, which prove what could have been done with the guilds, as they are the best ones by far, with them interacting with each other and choosing between them, but also being intertwined in a storyline. As far as lore and world building, well, the guilds are great for this, as they allow you to gain an understanding of the various groups in play, but also the little stories and the books you read and references to the world and in-game characters also assist in the world building. The environments that you explore with the different cities, well, more like glorified hamlets, all lead to some superb world building overall, which is still great in this game even now. The story might be a miss for many, and understandably, but the world building has always been Elder Scrolls' strong suit. Hell, it's always been Bethesda's strong suit. Hence why Skyrim's world is still so well regarded even now. If you want my spoiler discussion and thoughts on the future of the story lore and my predictions, I'll have a video up around the same time as this one that I will link so you can check that out. Otherwise, Skyrim still holds up in its world building, and its core stories are interesting enough if very lacking in pacing, as well as being hampered by the still loathed keep it simple stupid principle that plagues modern Bethesda games to this day. And yes, you know exactly who I blame for that. Visuals, audio, and presentation. Well, simply put, the soundtrack is still world-class stuff you have been listening to for this entire video. The sound effects are fine, and the voice acting is great for the most part. And that said, NPCs are still quite meme-worthy. Like, Skyrim was pretty much one of the first games to create truly memeable dialogue.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
As for the rest of the presentation, visuals are dated, as you would expect, but the atmosphere can still be great in this game. That said, despite multiple major updates or releases, the game didn't keep up with the graphical developments, even though there were improvements, and thus looks like a really early PS4 game at best. And the lighting, though it can be good in some interiors, and pretty good at times, like with my Elden Ring video, exteriors are at the mercy of the weather systems, and torches in this game still mess up road textures, and it is really jarring. That said, the game, when it gets the music, lighting, and the weather just right, can be very immersive. Plus, when the dragon theme kicks in, it still gives me chills. I won't dwell on this section any longer because it is an older game, so I don't believe it's fair to hold it to modern standards, and this is an unmodded version, so there it is. Bugs, performance, and other issues. The game still has plenty of bugs that are not fixed, even after years. As for new ones, I had one quest-breaking bug early on in the main quest that meant that I could not progress through an early game dungeon, which was required for said main quest. I had to disable collision with the console commands to actually continue, so be aware of that. I'm not sure if this bug's on the console versions as well, but it seems to be on the PC version. Also, NPCs often bug out. It's like they're jolting or respawning on the spot. I'm not sure what it is. It appeared a lot during the early game of my playthrough, and this I never got with the special edition prior, and never with a modded version either. Another issue I will note is sound can bug out a little bit with particular soundtracks as they end or transition, and it causes a kind of pop, which is quite annoying. It's not too often, but I did notice it throughout my playthrough. Again, I don't understand why the developers couldn't at least fix the bugs that modders literally fixed within a year of the 2011 release. There is no excuse if you're releasing a game and charging a full price for it. As for the performance, great actually. I mean, it is an older game, so you'd expect that, but with the improvements they've made in the engine, it definitely runs better on modern systems. It does, I mean, Special Edition ran well anyway for me, it was a massive improvement, but now it's even better. I even did some more extreme stress testing, you know, the classic turn your speed super high and run through the world and see if the constant cell changes can affect frame rate or cause stutter or even crashes. I had none of these issues. I made my character run through the world super quickly and there were no problems, so good stress test there. I am also aware that scripts are more efficient than before, which helps the game be more stable and prevents some game-breaking quest issues, but I can't confirm that per se. That would be more important for a modded game anyway, but still notable I think. I had no crashes, which is astounding for a Bethesda game. I had absolutely no freeze-ups or crashes throughout my playthrough, so great performance and stability overall, but the bugs are very disappointing to see. The verdict. As with all my reviews, I don't give numbered ratings as I don't want to be accused of dunking on a game by giving it a solid 7 out of 10. So the way it works is I will evaluate the value, how it runs, and its replayability in a totally subjective manner and reach a reasoned verdict. So let's get judgmental on this. The value proposition. So yeah, I don't need to say much here. The vanilla game alone easily is over 100 hours to do the core content, and that doesn't even account for the multiple playthroughs you could do and mods. At a price of £35 where I live and on regular sales though, I would have liked to see the original price lower, as it is in fact an 11-year-old game with slight changes, but considering what you get for the price, if you haven't played it before, it's a steal. As for the anniversary upgrade, I don't touch bundles of microtransactions with a barge pole out of sheer principle. Plus, you get the best club content with the free patch anyway, so some great value here. How it runs. Great. It's an old game, but Legacy to Special Edition was already a major jump, and then to Anniversary it's even better. And with a count of 0, yes, count it, 0 crashes, it is the most stable Bethesda game ever released, at least from my experience. Though I suppose you should call this re-released. So yeah, it's great for an 11-year-old game, so it's to be expected at least be a bit more stable than its original release. Replayability. Arguably one of the most replayable games ever made, and it's simple. Mods, mods, mods. If you're on PC, great. Consoles also are great for this, though not as expansive. Sure, this was a vanilla review, but come on, I didn't play Skyrim on and off for 11 years because it had timeless vanilla gameplay. It's mods, simple as that. If you don't care for mods, it's still a relatively replayable game, but as I said in my progression, you may want to limit how you play to avoid the master of all issues that I mentioned. Just think up a roleplay for your character and a character build and run with it. I suggest doing that. Check out Tamriel Vault for some ideas, it's a great site. So replayability is legendary, and there are very few games that are going to get that accolade. The verdict. There is a reason Skyrim has been able to have so many re-releases, and it's not because it got these stunning remasters, it's because people kept playing it and going back to it, and with great value, improving stability and performance with each release, and a legendary modding scene to hold it all together, and of course the replayability that comes with that. Of course, it's a steal, and I totally recommend it. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go and hibernate until Skywind, Beyond Skyrim, and Sky Oblivion release, so I'll see you then. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button for more content and the notification bell. Enjoy your day, and thanks for watching.